Hey guys, it's 007, and here we're going to do our patch 1.85 assessment. Oh, it's a little bit overdue, but we're going to go for it anyways right now. Figured we'd do it right before the new year, basically to drop the line and cut it. So, we're going to do this in the good, the bad, and the ugly fashion, because it probably best fits this patch. And it's going to be a little bit rough to cover everything, so if some elements get missed out, you're just going to have to forgive me, but these are some of the most major aspects that are trying to be covered. So, let's start off with the good. So obviously, in patch 1.85, we had the addition of supersonic jets, such as the F-100 and the MiG-19. Now, to be honest, in the game, people might not know it, or they might not realize it, but there are other supersonic jets in this game. And this is the part that's kind of neat, because in the game, the Hawker Hunter has been capable of going supersonic in the game for a long time, although it has to do it within a dive, medium to steep dive. It can break the sound barrier. Same case with the MiG-15, or MiG-17, sorry. MiG-17 is the same story. And I didn't know that MiG-17 could break the sound barrier. I knew the Hunter could, but after this patch, I was seeing the Mach meter, pop up. MiG-17 was breaking right through, fully upgraded, so I didn't know it was capable of that. I don't think it is historically capable of that, but that was just the story. So, once again, back to the show. I know I'm going to be trying to talk about the, whatchamacallit video, the Rank 6 discussion. That was an hour-long video. I'll probably link it in the upper right-hand corner so people know what I'm talking about. I've been referencing it video to video because we're going to be talking about it again. It's relevant information. Those were theoretics there back in June. This is almost January. Like, tomorrow is January of 2019. Roughly 6 to 7 months. We're here. That's insane. That was fast. So, what did I talk about in that video back then? Well, I said that the F-100 and the MiG-19 could be added to this game. Now, I had said that they could be added as 9.3 because obviously we were very sheepish with the BR, and the reason why I said 9.3 was primarily because I was thinking ahead. I don't think you can really put these aircraft at 9.7 and 10.0. Now, the reason why I say that is because all the aircraft above them are going to go all the way to like 15.0 in capability. Or if they added the F-15 to this game, it would probably be at like 14 to 15.0, considering the capability it brings to the field. Just ridiculous. I'm not going to jump off anymore. That's just way I was talking back then. But one of the key things I want to talk about between here and back in the Rank 6 discussion video is I never talked about air-to-air missiles, because I believe this game was never going to achieve them within 6 months. But they busted their ass to do it. And, well, what's the assessment of the missiles? I gotta say, it's pretty damn good. I'm really happy with how the missiles are operating. Now, the physics within the missiles operating, I like how they operate. The failure rate is to my approval. Success rate's to my approval. I don't feel like they're impossible to dodge. And I feel like if you properly position yourself and operate the missiles correctly, when you line up for positioning, because I have some really good games that I'm playing and showing. I had a 6-kill game in this aircraft, where I managed to just absolutely go ham on people. Now, 4 of the 6 kills were gun kills, but still, 2 kills were missiles. 1 long-range one, 1 short-range one, but once again, that's a pretty decent amount. And the MiG-19 is the same case. Now the MiG-19's ammunition's more balanced out. The F-100 can do a lot of stuff firepower-wise, and that's what they talked about before the patch. And I'm not going to say which one is better than the other. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm ultimately going to say here, the MiG-19 and the F-100 were excellent being added to this game. Superbly added. The missiles are outstanding. I'm trying to figure out what else to say. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say here is the ultimate good in this game has been the missile system for the air-to-air. That was executed perfectly. I heard a lot of criticism from Fly Daily. He was convinced this was going to be ace combat. These missiles are throwing 30 Gs, pulling into your, plane that already did a 90-degree turn. That's not even close to what it does in real life. In this age of these missiles, I can't talk about the modern missiles because I don't operate on them, I don't see them, I don't fly with them. But these missiles are nowhere near that. These missiles are the first generations. And like I said, I think they did an excellent job on the aircraft and the missiles. I love the Afterburner. It's created a new style of fighting. Ultimately, what I have to say about these aircraft, now I was worried about 9.0 becoming the new 8.0. A lot of people were afraid of that. We were figuring that the Sabres, the F-86s, the MiG-15s, the MiG-17s, they were going to get their trash kicked. Their lunch were going to get... their lunch money was going to get taken like so easy by these things. And it's not quite like that at all. It's more like 6.0 and 7.0, where 6.0 proper craft dive on the 7.0 jets. I couldn't have thought of a better BR to replicate in a higher tier than that. It made me so excited when that started happening, because I was like, this is something I can get involved with, because people start having that drive to try and catch these things. That's what I had when I tried catching 7.0 jets. It was trying to catch something. It was, I don't know, I'm not going to try and put an analogy to it, but God, what a feeling when you can do that. Well, let's just move on. So that's the good right there. Let's move into the bad. Now I want to start right off the bat with the Javelin. Now the Javelin is not at all bad, but the circumstances for the British tech tree is not so good. That's what I'm going to be talking about. Now I don't currently have the Javelin yet, but I have seen the Javelin fly. Watching the Javelin, and I've also test flown it. Test flying the Javelin and watching it fly, I have been quite impressed with its performance. Is it a match for the MiG-19 and the F-100? No. You can see it in the BR. It's a 9.0. Well, is it a match for the F-86 and the MiG-17s? No. Because it wasn't a fighter. That's the issue in this game. What they need to do is relabel this thing. Because currently in the game, let's see if we can get the tech tree up, it's labeled as a jet fighter. This thing obviously is a jet, but it's an interceptor. It's designed to intercept Tupolev bombers heading for British bomber air bases. No way is it supposed to, go into a dogfight with these things. It's designed to hunt down bombers and execute them. And from what I've seen with that, it's done a really good job. Now, when it goes into dogfighting mode, it's only good as a support aircraft. It's got to be off station, out of the picture. And to be honest with you, I still want to get the plane, primarily for the fact that it's probably the most modern looking plane in the game. And I honestly hope that I can end up getting it. Sorry about that, I gotta do a little edit here. So, back to what we're talking about. So, like I said, Javelin, I'm pretty, I'm still interested in it. Now, here's why I put it in the bad section of the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not what the aircraft... It's basically what should have been the aircraft for Britain. Obviously we have the two contenders at high tier. We have the MiG-19, and we have the F-100. Very good aircraft. But the problem is, it kind of gets old after a while. And I shouldn't say it gets old, because obviously there are other aircraft. 9.0 is still a major factor within these battles. They are still more than capable of engaging, as I said earlier. But here was a great opportunity to give Britain another step. Once again, as I had talked about before, we had the opportunity to see the Hawker Hunter F4 and F5 added to this game. The F5 would have been an excellent opportunity for Britain. Aircraft that is very familiar, very capable. We've seen the Hunter F1 be very capable in these matches. It still can hold its own with these modern aircraft. It has the power, and you might have even seen the kill montage I made. There were some kills it had. It was very much in the neck, or it was still within the game of fighting the F-100. The key thing with the Hawker Hunter F5 is you see the technology, because ultimately the Javelin was highlighting the technology of utilizing air-to-air fire streak missiles. But the Hawker Hunter F5, which could have easily been right here, would have been an extension of the Hawker Hunters. And here's the thing, it would have been a double opportunity, because the Javelin can't do ground attack. The best ground attack jet for Britain right now is a Premium. That's just stupid. By the way, we'll get to those later. Actually, they'll fall. They're going to be in the bad category alongside. Now, if they added the Hawker Hunter F5, the F5 was a multi-role aircraft. It was capable of ground attack, intercepting, and fighter superiority. I can't think of a better aircraft. I would have been happy if it was even at 9.7. I don't even care if it was no match for the F-100. It's an aircraft that can do the job and help British ground forces out. Help British ground forces out, Gaijin. I'm begging you. Do you have any idea how hard it is to attack ground targets with a Venom and a Attacker FB1? Please, help me. That's all I gotta say. British need ground attack and a fighter capable with air-to-air missiles. Javelin's capable, but we could have used the Hawker Hunter F5. That would have built such a community, or not community, but built such momentum back in Britain. Yeah, people complain about the Hawker Hunter. Big whoop. It's not that hard to fight. Especially now. I don't understand, people. What's stopping us from getting the Hawker Hunter F5 in this game? It doesn't have an afterburner. Well, that's all I'm going to leave it here. Now let's move on to the premium jets. This is where the second element of the bad comes in. They introduced rank 5 premium aircraft into the game. Now, I shouldn't say just rank 5. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure they're all rank 5. Let me just check quick. Yep, rank 5. Rank 5. Okay, just making sure. So they added these 3 rank 5 aircraft to obviously boost the player base and give an assist to people who want to play these nations. Completely fair. Now, I looked at this with a double-edged sword when they were adding these aircraft. Yes, they're adding aircraft that people can train on. Actually, let's give it a third element. This is the third element. So we have the first element, which people have the ability now to test fly aircraft. Now, albeit they're not going to be the same. I mean, the F-35 might perform a little bit better. I don't really know. I'm not really an expert. I haven't flown the F-35 that much. I assume it's just like the F-25 and the F-30 Sabres in this game. MiG-15 ISH is obviously very different. It's more of a ground attack element version of the MiG-15, which is interesting. I'll leave it at that. And obviously we have the British Reaper Mediator. Fair enough. But here's my thing with adding these aircraft. Yes, we have a platform for people to train on. That's something that's good. People can experience aerial combat. I'm not talking about flying in matches. I'm talking about test flying the aircraft to see, do I like this plane? Do I want to go down this line? I'm all for people figuring out what they want to do with their time and pursuing it. Now, let's talk about the other element for players that are experienced in the game, and obviously European Canadian and a lot of other players talked about this too, and I was pretty much right with them on this. All the experienced pilots who are coming back into the game, and they run into these premium aircraft pilots who are flying these aircraft for the first time. I mean, we were making fun of the fact some guys were going in there with level 9 and level 6, and they were flying these aircraft. And we were just saying, you know, give me some more free kills. And unfortunately, I mean, they're on... Okay, so unfortunately for some people, it's on both sides of the team. Fortunately, it's on both sides of the team. Once again, that's the reality situation. You have the idiots on your team, you have the idiots on the enemy team. You know, more kills for everyone kind of thing. Now, my issue is, once again, we're adding aircraft like these at high tier, and I think they should be added, but not yet. Too early. Way too early. This was purely another way of Gaijin trying to pocket some more money based on the situation of the hype. People were hyped for Supersonic, and they were hyped for Italy. We're going to talk about Italy here. They fought their way into the ugly category really fast. Now, these premium aircraft, I think they should have been added after we had at least, let's say, 5 to 8 more rank 6 aircraft per the country that the premiums were added. And I say that because it's just too early. You're running people right into a battle rating. Obviously, you're trying to flood the queue with people to shoot down and people to attack, and there was no waiting time. I loved it. I love not waiting around for an aero-realistic jet match. That's a lot of fun. But I don't think it's very much fun to those people, and I don't think it's very much fun to the other players that have to rely on these people at the current moment in time. And there isn't an extension, because they're right at the top of the battle. They're literally one battle rating away from top tier. And then someone might throw the caveat at me. Well, they have premium helicopters that are 1.0 BR, less than 1.0 BR away, even 0.3 BR away from the top tier. And even on beyond that, you can even talk about the tanks. Well, why am I not complaining about those? Well, for tanks it's quite an easy answer, because tanks don't really see a technology boost anywhere. Basically, once you get past 7.0 tanks, you're pretty much seeing the tank in its final form. Stabilized, advanced ammunition types, somewhat advanced armor types. You see those more in the 8.0 and up, to be honest, but it's pretty much on that level. The major thing alongside those is the sight improvement. You see laser range finding sights. That's a huge revolution in tank fighting. But the thing on all this is just, that's it. There's nothing new. Yeah, there's Chauvel armor and advanced composite armor. Yeah. But once again, that's in a 7.0, 8.0 up range. People experience that. That's well within the grasp of the game. Helicopters, it's a little bit different, and we're going to talk about that in the ugly category. Helicopters are kind of on the same broadband as technology. You don't see anything radical happen. There's no radical speeds that these helicopters are achieving. It's more of the weapons technology that advances with them. But I want to say that for ugly. Let's stay focused on the 9.0 premiums. One of the biggest things in this game that I learned when I reached 9.0, because we'll talk about it in the progression of a player. In 1.0 to 4.0, players learn a few basic things. They learn speed, altitude, guns, and let's see what else there is. Turning are key to their survival, and they're key to their ability to offensively engage the enemy. That is the 1.0 to 4.0 lesson learned. 4.0 on to, let's see, 5.0, we see the extension of those things being surmounted. We're seeing the improvement in the aircraft as performance. The overall rules that were learned early on, albeit turning is somewhat being minused out in some countries because speed and altitude are more key. That's recognizable. Countries wanted longer, faster, higher flying aircraft. Firepower improved as well. We saw low caliber machine guns improve to higher caliber cannons. That makes sense. And then we see, what were we talking about? Was it 6.0? 6.0 to 8.0. Lessons once again continue. Speed and altitude become better and better. Firepower is more consistent at a higher effectiveness. Now let's go to 9.0. Game changes completely. And I say that because now it's not so much how much altitude you get in a fight, it's how much energy you can build in a fight. Now, obviously energy can be debated being back earlier on in that, but altitude becomes less of a key factor at higher tier. The speed, thrust, and armament start to dominate the battlefield. Now, agility's still there. Don't get me wrong. You can tell, you know, with 9.0 aircraft, MiG-15s and AF-86s, you can tell when their elements are better than the other in different speeds. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the differences, but it's a completely new ball game for someone. Obviously, those that have flown 9.0 understand this, because you don't do things at 9.0 that you do in other aircraft at lower battle ratings. In 7.0 aircraft, you're worried about climbing. In 9.0 aircraft, you're worried about getting speed. Getting a good deflection shot. Not so much deflection shots, I should say. Good positioning to take the shots. And you can argue these are basic lessons you learn early on, but at 9.0, they are key to your ability to succeed. Now let's take someone that's, you know, gone from 1.0 to 4.0 and 4.0 to 6.0. Let's take them and say, hey, you know, obviously you have all that experience there, but let's just say we had someone that didn't have that experience. Put them right in 9.0. How are they going to know that they should turn, force overshoots, look for speed in the right moments? I'm not saying that everything is, you know, certain elements need to be disregarded. Altitude can be disregarded in some regards, but it's still a security with energy. But the fact is, players that think that turn and bird fighting is the way to fight at 9.0, they're gonna get their they're gonna get their clock cleaned pretty quick. And having that guy on your team is not gonna be fun. You're gonna have a guy who's learning still how to fly his aircraft. He hasn't had the experience of the previous BRs, building up and understanding the importance of fighting, and he's at a educational gap. And I talked about this in as a comment to I think it was on a European Canadian video. But I talked about education was one of the biggest things that transitioned in history. You see pilots in the early days of aviation, you know, some people were coming out of backgrounds that had never experienced things. You know, they were basic soldiers being put into planes. World War II, you start seeing the transition of pilots were expected just to be capable and understanding. As long as you were or if you were qualified enough to become an officer, you were qualified enough to be a pilot. Then after World War II, you start seeing that generation of people that, winged it into the Air Force or wherever military aviation group. And, they obviously footed themselves there based on experience from World War II or in Korea. Now, the pilots that are going into their, generation of Korea and Vietnam are expected to be educated. They're expected to be college educated, experienced and understanding of their aircrafts in their fullest abilities. Because obviously, countries want to invest in aircraft and pilots that are capable. That's how you win wars. World War II was an attrition war. It was a resource war. Other conflicts, the bigger wars were not exactly being fought by like Russia and the United States being fought directly against each other, but economically and experienced strategically. Preserve your experience, preserve your education and your understanding, so you have a better footing on your enemy. And you have these people jumping the fence to 9.0. And I'm not saying they need a college education to fly these aircraft, but I sure would like them to have some experience, period. Just watching a video isn't going to solve your problem. But we're going to move on to the ugly here. I know we're running time, but... So the ugly, we're going to start with Italy, because that is the least of the worst of the problem, although it's probably more profound in its current effect in the game. So let's look at Italy now. Italy, albeit it was very much underestimated for what it was going to bring to the table, really packed the punch. And I feel like it was a punch out of, I don't know, I wouldn't say revenge, but it was a punch out of ferocity. It just, some of the stuff in the Italian tech tree just baffles me. Some of the stuff I haven't even seen yet. But once again, we got to talk about that Sherman problem. Strikes again. Strikes again. I had my money on it. So, and obviously we had other cases throughout. I mean, this was pretty unique. Didn't know about this stuff. But once again, it's just ridiculous. Now, more ridiculously, we have to talk about the premiums. Now, the AIM-26 Ariete, people talk about the Pershing as being an okay tank, and there's very little difference between this one and the Italian one. But the capability and the fact that these nations, the US and the Italians, were almost likely to clash every single time is not very much fun for people that are grinding out. Because, once again, you have a vehicle right here that's fully uprated, fighting people that have grinded out their vehicle. And that's very, very hard for people to do. And this has been the absolute thorn in the side of the game right now, premium-wise, in Italy. This vehicle has caused more trouble than any other premium vehicle in Italy. I'm going to say Italy because people will talk about, I gotta say the L44 right now is still a joke, being at 8.7 BR. But you have to look at it from an allied perspective. And people are going to say, oh, the XM1's there. Well, not exactly. This vehicle's at 8.3. Now let's take a look at Germany. This vehicle's at 8.7, the L44. Arguably probably the best premium tank you can buy. And let's throw in the Russians, why not? 8.7 as well. Well, what's this have to do with America? Everything on this line and down is going to fight those vehicles every time. M48 and M60, M103. Day in and day out. And even if you're luckier than that and don't get the 8.7s, you get a 7.3 match. Or 8.3 match. You still run into Mr. Ariete M60 over here. Now let's think about this. Now, people in the US Tech tree are not going to grind out for the M60A1 AOS. Because why would you grind out for an 8.3 tank? Like this. I ground out for the Sheridan because I wanted something that would be, you know, good enough to work with the 163, and I figured it would develop into something convenient like the Bradley or something else. That was my assumption based on my grinding. But most players go right for this Abrams land. They go right to it. Because they know it is the tank that is best for progression in the Americans. So, usually what happens is the Americans are going to stop right here, M103, M48, and M60. They're going to get these vehicles right here. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, these vehicles right here don't get stabilizers. I don't think the M103 gets a stabilizer, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna put my hands up and say I don't quite know, but I'm pretty sure the M103 doesn't get a stabilizer. Otherwise, it would probably be at 8.3. These vehicles are gonna get up-tiered all the time, fighting a vehicle that's the same as them, but better in every single way. Ammunition, firing capability, it's going to have a stabilizer, and it's going to guarantee it has an upgraded engine. Not to mention it has smoke grenades and everything else, because, you know, it's an M60A1. And people can buy their way right to it. Right to it. No grinding necessary. Grind right your way, grind all you want in America, because guess what? These people right here can buy it in a heartbeat. And I get Gaijin's a company that needs to make money, but I don't accept the idea that the US should be fighting tanks that are better than it, that are the exact same as it, but better than it, and every pretty much time in VR in this game. Horrible. I mean, some of the stuff, I feel like it's just a joke against America. Honestly. But that's all I can say about that stuff. It's been a disaster, because I've been grinding out with Josh, you know, one of the guys I play with. And it's just absolute hell going up against this stuff. Now let's talk about the Centauro. The Centauro right now has no hull brake. That's completely stupid. That's, to put it in perspective, this thing feels like an Object 906, but in Italy. That's pretty much at the level that it's at. It's just short. It might float, but I think it's just short of floating. That's pretty much at the level that we're dealing with here. And look at this. Look at that gap in BR between these two vehicles. Oh, the last one gets ERA. When has ERA made a difference? Oh, the last one gets a better round, the DM33 round with 447 mils of penetration. By the way, higher than a Challenger, if you just wanted to know that. Oh, but the Centauro before it doesn't get APFSDS. So what? 7.7. 303 millimeters is plenty of penetration to go through a lot of stuff at 7.7 and up. 8.7 is an easy turkey shoot. What are you telling me that this... It just makes no sense. This vehicle right here could be 8.3. It honestly could. The speeds that these vehicles are reaching, and I just don't understand. And obviously all these vehicles right here behind it, just... It makes no sense to me. And here's one I don't understand. 3.3. This thing's at 3.3, by the way. This cannon is capable of lighting up the side of a Challenger and penning it, and catching on fire. Because I would know that from the KPZ-70s and the Leopard 2Ks using the cannon. Igniting my fuel tank on fire on the side of my tank. Are you kidding me, game? It just blows my mind. I was hopeful for Italy. I wanted them to be a good country, but I didn't want them to be another 2.0 Russia, 2.0 Germany. Or even worse than that, 2.0 America, but fighting America. Now, obviously, they have their iconic footprint, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they're fighting America with better vehicles, and they have vehicles that can do way more than America can throw at it. And I'm not here to say that America should be the best nation in the game, but I'm quite sure that the Americans shouldn't be screwed over by technology that they developed and having it in the enemy's hands 24/7. Now, people talk about let's fix the nations in the game. I agree. Let's fix them. But until then, it's hell on wheels for the Americans and the British. And obviously people won't know that until they play them. Now let's move on to the final part of the ugly. The AH-1Z Viper. Now how the hell did this thing make it to the ugly? Let's just take a look at modifications quick. It carries a modern AIM-9L Sidewinder. Why did it get it? Obviously to shoot back at aircraft that were going to engage the AH-1Z. Okay, fair enough. I respect that. Okay, well, it's got flares now, and obviously it has countermeasures to defend itself. So, what else is the big deal? It has Hellfire missiles. Look at the penetration value! Is there anything in the game that has that much armor? Honestly! Okay, once again, we're going to refer back to that video I was talking about, the Rank 6 discussion aircraft. The technology for taking out AAA and other vehicles is there. It's now here, and it's still being developed. But it's in a few vehicles in the game. A few vehicles in the game have this capability. I don't want one-sided engagements. The H-1Z is a one-sided engagement. Well, the Russians get air-to-air missiles, right? Yeah, kind of. They get these things. I don't even know how you arm these. Do you actually have to arm them as a pure armament? You do. Holy smokes. So obviously this would probably be your lineup. You would have 4 air-to-airs and 4 ATGMs. And I guess, I don't know, can you arm? No, it's just 4 ATGMs. I think you'd probably settle off with this armament right here. This is probably the best armament to take. Oh, actually, no, this is the best because it's the next model missile. Okay. But this is 9.7. Well, surely, surely Britain has helicopters. Oh, no, they don't. Surely Japan has no, they don't either. France, maybe? Oh, they must have thrown it in with it. No, apparently they didn't. Oh, fooled again. Why are we advancing countries like the 3 nations, US, Germany, and Russia? Over and over again. We haven't leveled the bar up with Britain, Japan, Italy, and France. Italy got their ground forces finally. I'm happy. Good. A little overpowered, albeit. But fine. Let's talk about Britain helicopters. Here's the thing. Yes, USSR can fight alongside the US, and USSR can fight alongside Germany. But they can't do it both at the same time unless it's a mixed battle. So we literally have a case where Germany can have the advantage, or the USA can have the advantage. And really, Germany's kind of in the backseat when it comes to helicopters. But it would be nice if Britain, Japan, France could be there to support the engagement too. We gotta see these nations' helicopters added to the game. It's stupid to have these imbalances. We still have these stupid imbalances in the game. Yes, all the nations have ground forces now. Great. I know we're adding naval forces. Totally got that. But right now, Air Force, ground forces, and helicopters are all three in the same merger at ground forces battles. We gotta have those at the same level with each other. We can't have this unbalance anymore. We gotta level out the other countries. Unacceptable. Okay. So, what is the end note with the AH-1Z? Well, let's think about this now. There are only 2 helicopters in the game that have air-to-air missiles, as far as I know. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. These two helicopters have air-to-air missiles. Oh, that's great. They'll defend themselves against enemy jets. Well, what do the missiles lock on? Well, they lock onto a thermal signature. Well, what produces thermal signatures? Well, jet engines, and sometimes prop aircraft. Wait, did you say jet engines? What do these things run on? Pretty much every helicopter in the game, short of the, I think the Mi-4. I mean, the Mi-4 probably runs on a piston-driven engine, I'm pretty sure. Just making sure I'm not, you know, telling you guys lies. Sorry. Oh, that's funny. Okay, sorry. Yeah, cylinder engine. Well, what's the worry about jet engines? Well, if air-to-air missiles lock on, the infrared missiles lock onto the thermal signature of a jet engine, and let's just talk about aircraft like these that are currently... Okay, so the other Mi-24s do carry missiles. There we go. Not these, though. 9.3. Even though it's still in the same battle rating range, it doesn't have flares or missiles, but it... Ultimately, these aircraft are going... These helicopters are going to fight against helicopters that have the countermeasures to dodge missiles, which is fair. But these things don't have missiles to fight off in the first place. And the second thing is they don't have the countermeasures to defend themselves against air-to-air missiles. So literally, and these are not, you know, half-aspect missiles. These are all-aspect missiles, which means they just need to see an aircraft just to shoot. If they see a thermal signature of an aircraft, they will fire. They will lock on. Are you kidding me, guys? I can't imagine what's going to happen when Japan, France, and Britain show up with their helicopters, and you have Mi-35s and just Mi-35s and AH-1Zs just going to town on them as they grind their way. And the thing is, here's another aspect that needs to be highlighted about the helicopters in this game. There's no way to advance through them. I've been flying the AH-1G so damn long, I feel like I've fought longer than the Vietnam War pilots have. There's just no way to grind. Even the premium takes forever to get through things. There's no way you can fight in helicopter realistic because it's so imbalanced. They still haven't fixed the balance that we talked about in the last assessment. We still have yet to fix helicopters by themselves. And can't imagine to talk about these things in ground forces because it's even just as big as a joke now. I watched a Viper behind me in a match while driving my British rip an entire team apart. But the aircraft spawn points now is off the charts and no one can shoot it down. And even if they got close to shooting it down, the missile from the Viper could probably take it out just as easily. Crazy. Absolutely insane. And they're talking about adding more stuff for America, Russia. Not so much... They might talk about Germany. They might give them the Tiger, or the Tiger. I hope not. We've got to add Britain, Japan, and France. I get Italy's a little bit behind. They're going to be a little bit behind for a while. That's just the nature of being added to the game. But they've got to prioritize the balancing out of the helicopters in the nations. We got to make grinding for helicopters realistic. We need to lower these research costs. This is the biggest brick wall in the game, is the helicopters. Fix it, Gaijin. We got to fix it now. No, it sounds like a rant, but I'm tired of sitting there and just getting the receiving end from all this stuff. So ultimately, what does 1.85 bring for this game? Well, long term, we're opening up the gate to rank 6 aircraft, which is huge. We're going to see the air power improvement badly needed to this game. We've seen the weapons introduced to this game. We have air-to-air missiles now that are capable of engaging aircraft in better conditions. We now have more advanced ground attack payloads, such as the Hellfires. Weapons that are currently on the battlefields today, taking out ground targets, taking out high-value targets halfway across the world by pilots. And here's the thing, I've even opened this idea up. I might do a video talking about this. I don't really know what to say about it, but I think it would be pretty funny if they added the Predator and Reaper series to this game. The UAVs. Why not? The technology's here for them to do it. And like I said, I'll talk more about it. I'm going a little bit over my time right now, but the end statement here is we've seen the speed, the rank 6 introduced for air realistic, or just air aviation. We've seen it introduced into the game. We've seen the water change color, and we can see that, hey, rank 6 air can work. It can work. Just gotta add it for other countries, we gotta keep expanding on it. Keep pursuing the rank 6, and I guarantee you Gaijin will have a very good time. As long as people have something to grind for in aviation, they'll be happy. People went to ground forces and became unhappy because they had nothing else to do in aviation. Aviation got dead for a while. I like to see Fleet try and continue. I saw they added cruisers to it, but I don't really want to make a comment on those because I can't really speak for what they are and what they do. I'm happy that they're adding these things, but I don't know what to say really, because they're not exactly a front page item anymore. The two major game modes in this game right now are ground forces and air realistic. Aviation and ground forces. Fleet and helicopters. I think Fleet's going to be the third biggest. Helicopters are going to be the last. I don't think anyone's going to really push helicopters because, yeah, they're integral to a ground forces match, but it's futile trying to grind them out. You have to pay money. It's a paywall. But back to the discussion of what is being added to the game. We're seeing these advanced weapons being added. We're seeing countermeasures. This is the first implementation of countermeasures in the game. Countermeasures are being added finally. Countermeasures is the next generation of fighter. Where you see, obviously when smoke grenades were added, that changed the game completely for ground forces. People could start covering their position when they got ambushed. Or cover themselves up when they needed to make an escape. Outstanding. Flares is a great generation leap forward for these vehicles. We're starting to see the ability to protect yourself. In 6 or 7 months, we've gone super far. But the thing we have to keep in mind is we can't let the game get unbalanced. Because the moment it gets unbalanced, no one's going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of great stuff being used for the wrong reasons. And it's going to be used in the wrong ways, and it's going to make people unhappy. We've got to see this done correctly. I think that's pretty much what I have to say about patch 1.8.5. I'm happy with the patch for some aspects, mostly aviation. That's mostly my background in this game. And I'm quite happy with what's been added. So, for aviation. Ground forces and helicopters still need their help. I'm still working naval fleet, so I can't give you a conclusion on that. I'm happy so far with what naval is, but I still can't give you a conclusion on it. So, that's all I have to say, guys. I'm Double 7, and I will see you guys later.